buy them for $160. Sell them back for $60,000. You just made over $58,000. What's the catch? You might have to camp outside and wait up to 11 hours overnight. But those quick enough get to take part in this billion-dollar resale market, a market fueled by the community's passion for the footwear industry. Let's dive into the history of how this all came to be. It all started in 1964 when University of Portland track coach Bill Bowerman and mid-distance runner Phil Knight joined together to import and resell high-tech running shoes from Japan. At the time, German-made shoes dominated the athletic shoe market, so Bowerman and Knight set out to provide an alternative. The original company's name was Blue Ribbon Sports, but it later changed to become Nike, which is also the name for the Greek goddess of victory. In 1971, Portland State University graphic design student Carolyn Davidson was paid $35 to design the iconic swoosh. That's roughly $200 in today's time. Now this may sound like a ripoff back then, but 12 years later, Miss Davidson received a ring with an embedded diamond in the swoosh design. She was also granted shares of Nike worth about $8,000 at the time. However, now the value of the shares are worth just shy of $500,000. In 1984, Nike signed NBA rookie Michael Jordan to an endorsement contract. They released the first model of his signature shoe, the Air Jordan 1. When it came out, the NBA banned this new shoe. But this just gave it a tremendous amount of publicity, making it a key event in Nike's development. Fast forward to 2012, Nike became the NFL's official on-field supplier for uniforms, sideline apparel, and practice wear. By 2015, Nike's fiscal year revenue target was set at $28 billion, and the company signed a deal to become the official apparel supplier of the NBA. It's clear that Nike has established itself as a market leader in the footwear industry, but the question is, how? How is Nike able to drive so many sales that every single release sells out in one day? First, we have to understand Nike's consumer demographic. Nike is targeting Gen Z and millennial consumers who are much more lenient when spending their disposable income. If you combine these two demographics together, they have a combined purchasing power of $3 trillion to spend. These consumers are interested in products that grant a higher social status or image because of how immersed they are in technology. Put it simply, Nike's key demographics want luxurious and exclusive products that aren't easily obtainable by the general public. And Nike knows this. Nike and other sneaker companies have perfected the marketing strategy of making any pair of sneakers become exclusive in the eyes of these consumers. They generate hype and promotion for this exclusivity in 3 different ways. First, there are incremental rollout releases. If you check the Nike Store website, you'll notice there's a launch calendar tab to check out the upcoming releases from Nike. Every single release has a launch article on the section which highlights the features of any new sneaker about to hit the market. Nike will also talk about how to get the sneakers and how to ensure a smooth checkout process. So, why do they do this? It creates hype for their product. The consumers are excited and anxiously waiting for each new sneaker to release, and the sneaker is marketed in a way that screams, and that's when Nike employs the incremental rollout release method. The incremental rollout release method begins by bringing a small quantity of a specific item to the market. This quantity is significantly less compared to demand for that specific item. From there, distribution gradually increases in both scope and volume through a series of ever bigger releases, teasing but never quite satisfying the sneaker community. Eventually, these original limited colors don't ever resurface, while a wide spate of similar colorways and new colorways will help convert the hype into mass market sales. At this point, the sneaker becomes a general product that any consumer can walk into the store and buy. This has been the case for a variety of sneakers, such as the Nike Air Max 97, the Air Jordan 1, as well as other sneakers from Adidas like the NMD and the Ultra Boost. It's important to note that while some incremental rollouts are intentional to drive exclusivity and hype, some are planned due to a limited production of numbers to accompany breakthrough technologies. An example of valid incremental rollouts is when Nike released the original Flyknit technology in 2012. Due to the extensive research and development needed to implement this technology, the limited quantities is a consequence of adapting the manufacturing process rather than a marketing strategy. Adidas did the same thing with their Futurecraft 4D technology in 2017. The second way Nike hypes up and promotes exclusivity is through influencer marketing. Most people know that Nike uses influential athletes to promote their sneakers. This is for consumers to believe that by wearing the same pair of sneakers used by these athletes, you'll have the same kind of success in their sport. Some of Nike's influential athletes include Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, Tiger Woods, and Serena Williams. What's incredible is how Nike appeals to the Gen Z and millennial consumer bases. Instead of incorporating only sports to their product lineup, Nike has decided to broaden their lineup and use fashion designers to help market their sneakers. In 2014, Nike introduced Nike Lab, a section of Nike that will showcase how Nike interacts and collaborates with other innovators. Nike Lab offers limited editions of Nike's latest performance and sport style innovations that express the intersection of sport, design, and culture. Basically, this means Nike Lab wants to promote Nike in an alternative way towards fashion wear and streetwear. Through Nike Lab, they have created exclusive collaborations with designers such as Jun Takahashi from Undercover and Virgil Abloh from Off-White. These designers also promote hand-in-hand next to hip-hop culture figures working with Nike, like Drake and Travis Scott. The third way that Nike hypes up and promotes exclusivity is a consequence of two previous marketing strategies: the resale market. The resale market is an external market driven by Gen Z and millennial demand. As mentioned earlier, the supply for the sneaker release is always significantly less in comparison to the demand, leaving many consumers walking away empty-handed. With no options left to turn to, these consumers have to reach deeper into their pockets to wear a pair of these coveted sneakers. Although the retail price from Nike may range between $160 to $215, these consumers are willing to cough up 2 to 3 times the original retail price. This opens up opportunities for individuals to thrive and make a profit off of this resale market. These individuals are known as resellers to the sneaker community and cause the price of a pair of sneakers to rise drastically. Some people say the secondary market is good for the community, as both resellers and Nike get to be happy. Nike still gets to sell the shoe, while resellers get to rake in some additional profit. However, the people who can't cough up more money are still upset by the lack of supply from Nike. Here are some shoes that give resellers a nice profit margin. If you add up all those profit margins, you would earn a nice profit of $8,760. That's not too bad for lining up outside for a few days. But with these hordes of people, there is bound to be rowdiness in the crowd. In May of 1989, 17-year-old James David Martin led a 15-year-old Michael Eugene Thomas into the woods and strangled him for his 2-week-old pair of Air Jordans. The unfortunate incident caused Thomas to pass away, and Sports Illustrated published a striking article titled, "Your Sneaker or Your Life?" and this sparked a controversy. According to GQ magazine, 1,200 people lose their lives every year over sneakers. With the amount of supply for each release, it's no wonder people get riled up. And the issue doesn't end there. Here are 4 cases that took place in 2014 alone. A student at Virginia Union University was shot on his way home over his Air Jordans. The perpetrator? He was sentenced to 44 years in prison. In April, Isaiah Martinez was shot in the foot when he tried to cut in line at the Nike Air Foamposite Pro Yeezy release in New York City. In July, Steve Cardona was charged with second-degree robbery after pepper spraying a teenage boy and running off with his Air Jordans. In November, 2 teenagers arranged to meet up for a sneaker trade in a McDonald's parking lot. Instead of a friendly sneaker trade, the purchaser robbed the other teen, taking his sneakers. He now faces 25 years in jail. At the end of the day, this story has 2 sides. Is it Nike's fault for not supplying enough to fulfill the demands of the market? Or is it perhaps the fault of youth's ignorance who are so caught up with the idea of getting a pair of sneakers for social status?